Welcome to your Inspirational Astrology Horoscope for Monday, April 26, 2021. I'm Astrologer David Palmer, the Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Well, thanks so much for everybody for being a part of HighVibe.tv. Truly appreciate it. And of course, make sure that you check out Purgatory, Rising Through the Darkness. You can get it right now on HighVibe.tv. Just click on the top menu bar, click Purgatory, and it's right there. Hope everybody's doing wonderful. We are on a big full moon day. That's right. Let's take a look and see what's going on for this full moon for your Monday. A lot going on. It's a big full moon. So, we're going to have this full moon in Scorpio today. It is going to be happening at 7 degrees of Scorpio, while that sun is going to be right here at 7 degrees of Taurus. What does that mean? Well, we're in a buildup. If you actually really think about it this week, it's kind of interesting to me because one, Saturn is at 12 degrees. That means that Sun over the next 5 days is going to make that square to Saturn. It's a challenging aspect, although I think it's a hard-working aspect, and there's a lot of hard work involved with this full moon to, one, let go of a lot of things that are not serving our true understanding of who we are. I mean, this is a transmutation kind of energy, and having to do a lot of transpersonal work on yourself, like having to be able to not be afraid to look at yourself, to look at really what you want in your life, because there's a lot of things that Taurus and Scorpio bring, our needs, our wants, brings a lot of things in life that we really are looking to attain. It's a much more physical realm. We're in Taurus. We got a lot of energy here. Of course, Venus is here. We just had Mercury and Venus conjunct. That conjunction is now over. And plus, they both were with Uranus and made the square to Saturn. So in many ways, the weirdness that we kind of felt over these last, 4 to 5 days is coming in a full moon now. That's going to go through with the sun at least, and with the moon in opposition, and so forth over this next 5 days. And especially in 3 days, we're going to have the sun on top of Uranus right there. So, there is a lot happening when it comes to this week and this full moon. The other big factor that we don't want to forget about is Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio, right? Like Pluto rules Scorpio. The house of Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. And so Pluto at 26 degrees of Capricorn is going retrograde tomorrow. If we look at the speed here and we look at Pluto, where's Pluto at? There it is. Slow. See that? It's only doing 1 second. That's right. Just 1 second. So it's kind of funny in many ways because it's like, I'm trying to figure out what I have to do before we go through all these big retrogrades and all these things that are going to change really quick in our lives. And we don't want to, I think, get lost into feeling like there's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And the number one thing that Scorpio does bring up is fear. And that's what the emotional realm, especially of a full moon, is going to be bringing up extremely, because this full moon is in square to Saturn, which is hard work. It is also about this connective force, dealing with the collective, dealing with society and so forth. And where do we fit in also if you just look at your personal life, because this is a full moon, so it is dealing with your personal life, the issues in your world, right? Like what is going on and what do you want to connect with in your world that's going to attain and bring you this really awesome energy of Taurus that is physical in heaven, but it's also very stubborn. And so this is going to bring up our stubborn energy a lot. We haven't really seen a lot of this full moon kind of activity yet in the last, cycle of dealing with Saturn in a fixed sign. Since really, and especially square point, since Saturn was in Scorpio, which would have been, of course, at the end of 2012, October, all the way till August of 2015. So, it's been a while since we kind of started trickling down these roads and started to make some hard square aspects. And this is a T-square, and this is also, involving Uranus. And while Pluto is retrograding in the next day, so it's stationary, direct, but it's going to stationary retrograde and stop and go to zero and go nowhere. And it's going to activate this much more intensely, I would say times a million, about your truth and not only the world you want to connect, but is this really in your destiny, in your life? And you have to check your gut. You got to check who you are as a person. And you can't be afraid at this moment at all of being honest, because that full moon in Scorpio, it has always a problem because, one, it's always dealing with, issues of Scorpio, right? Like, I can't let this go. But the Taurus is reminding it like, hey, yo, like, is it worth it? Is it really what I truly actually want to attain and hold on to? Because it's one thing to emotionally want something, it's another when we actually have it. So a good explanation would be like, God, I really want, and we're going to use just a stupid physical item, right? Like, I really want that new phone that's out, right? Let's say, like, a good example would be like Windows when they made a phone. And so, like, you want it really bad and you can't let it go because you're a Windows person, you love it all. But, you know, at the same time, you're like, well, everybody's doing it. I'm not saying this is the real story because actually nobody really did. But it would be like, everybody's doing it and maybe I should just do it. And I talked to a bunch of friends and they're like, I should do it. But you know what? Inside, I really like my iPhone. And I enjoy it and I know how to use it. This is where it's like one of those times in life. Not all times are we in this moment. So it's like, this isn't like how to live all the time. Especially it depends on your chart. But it's like, this is a time where it's like, maybe you don't do the Windows Phone, you know? And maybe you feel this obligation to do something, or you're feeling this, I have to do this. You don't have to do anything in your life that you don't want to. And this is going to bring that up extreme, especially with Pluto come retrograde, within the 24-hour period of the full moon. And the moon will still be in Scorpio over this next 2.5 days, or 2 days, let's say, from the time of the full moon, which of course this full moon is happening at 8:31 p.m. Pacific, 11:31 p.m. Eastern. And that'll be happening on Tuesday, the 27th, you know, early in the morning and midday, if you're all the way on the other side of the world. And I think what's also interesting about this full moon in Scorpio, because we have Mars now in Cancer, right? So our personal lives are definitely being affected as far as what we are putting our action towards, what we're putting a lot of our direction. And when you're dealing with Mars and it's in its fall sign of Cancer, you know, it's like before we can even do anything, we need to be emotionally comfortable and emotionally feeling right. And these are going to be times where, you know, a lot of people are going to be putting up walls, a lot of people are going to be putting up blocks, or a lot of people are going to be just blindly running into things of emotion without thinking about their real intuitive emotion. It's almost more like a quick fix. And that's not going to really work. You want to think long term with this Pluto retrograde that comes in less than 24 hours from the full moon. You want to think of the big squares to Saturn that are coming. You want to think of the Uranus conjunction that's coming with the sun, and that this full moon is with Uranus. That there's there's a connective force. Yes, there's having to feel like there's a lot of things in the world that you have to try to understand. You have to come into terms of what that looks like. But I would say with the North Node in Gemini, you know, there's a dualistic nature. And there's this feminine and masculine nature that actually comes about in our brains, whether it's left and right hemisphere, or whether it is, of course, masculine and feminine. And, you know, some of the Hermeticism, which I'm thinking about doing like my own kind of crazy codes, since I just did all these crazy code cracking in Purgatory. But like, if we take a look at Mercury and the glyph, and what's interesting about Mercury, of course, is at 16 degrees, right? So it's over the conjunction with Venus. So it's almost like we've coming into Monday or Sunday night, even into Monday, it's almost like, okay, this is the understanding of what I really want or I don't want. And it's clear. So it's like you're following on execution of your emotional, what you're going to transform, what you're going to take in, and what you're also not going to take in. It's very, you know, both-sided. And Saturn is trying to say, do you know how to connect with what you really want? Do you really know how to connect or disconnect too with what you don't want? And there's a dualistic nature of having to do both. So if you understand Mercury, in real true Hermeticism, it's the sun, right? And then believe it or not, it would be the moon that would create this. So the moon here. And then of course the elements. And in the old way, this is Aries, the ram. But if you do that, you see Saturn here. And then if you turn and look around, you would see Jupiter here. So if I were to like, here's Saturn, right? And then this would be Jupiter, if I were to do it like this. And then, of course, you would see Venus through here, which is the cross, the sun right here, and then, of course, the moon that makes the antenna, which is where you get all the planets. Of course, not Uranus and the outer planets and so forth, because it's Hermeticism before all that, but those are all higher octaves anyway. So this is what the whole understanding of life is, and that means that if this is the masculine Mercury that kind of came about, almost like if it's like there's a twin, there's a brother, there's a sister, there's a feminine, right? So there's a masculine and a feminine, there's a twin. And this is the twin to in the true Hermeticism. So there's almost like kind of like a false Mercury, people only seeing one direction about everything and not looking at there's also a feminine and also a dualistic nature. And I feel like this is kind of what's coming up with having this North Node here that happens to be in Gemini, this Mars that happens to be in Cancer. So it's like having to look at our environments very intensely and weigh out a lot of the sides of, kind of like looking at the twins of what's going to work, what's not going to work in many ways, right? It's like, can I really do this in my life? Is this what I really want? Is this going to make sense for my environment? There's like this really checking in on things. And then there's this deeper scorpionic view about it where it's like, okay, so I'm at a place in my life where I really want to feel this. And maybe it's not so much getting too attached to the physical outcome of who, what, when, where, but understanding what is it that you want. Are you lonely and it's a relationship you want? Do you have to take that person on as a relationship? Is that really the relationship with the person you want? Or is it just that you want a relationship? Is it that you want money in your life and you're going to take that job just because, you know what, you need a job right now and you need money? Or is that what you really want in your life to connect with? You are being pressured by your family or by friends or by your work or somebody to take the shot. Is that what you really want in your life? And I'm not here to tell you what to go do or not. Like people know that my belief of the astrology, or at least my viewpoint, is that it's not, especially even looking at this Hermeticism point. Like I'm just like, oh God, like it's not really connecting all the pieces here, like astrology and all things do. But, are you taking it just to satisfy what the TV and the media says, or to go to school because that's what your parents are telling you to do? And it has a deeper meaning, is it really about the shot for you? And I'm using this as a current day example. Or is it really just because if you don't go to school, your parents won't like you, or you feel like you won't be liked by your colleagues, or you won't be able to get to the job you want because of that school, even though the deeper bottom of the truth is, oh God, that's not what I really want to even be doing any of those things. And it's the shot that's triggering you that's like, oh, or it's the breakup that's triggering you that's like, man, yeah, I just wanted a relationship, but I didn't really want it with you, or I really want this relationship, but I've been just too afraid to be in relationships, and I do really want it to be with you, and I have to confront maybe that I still have a connection to my ex, or I still have a connection to this buddy or friend of mine that's really bad for me in relationships and makes me do all these things. This is a trigger point that Saturn is asking for us to go, let's be honest, number one, because Saturn is a truth, but it's a physical and, more importantly, a responsible truth that we have to actually take precedence with responsibility first. And we, it can feel a little kind of harsh with the moon squaring Saturn itself, right? Because it's like there's a little bit of the notion whenever the moon is squaring Saturn, like, oh gosh, like I'm emotionally blocked, or I'm emotionally not going to get what I want. And then when the sun's squaring Saturn, I have that within about the same degrees, a little more, 9 degrees. This is a 5-degree orb. And, I don't feel like I'm blocked in life. I feel like, gosh, I have to get the plans together. I have to do the work more. But man, that work pays off. And I think that this is going to be where that work pays off about you not being afraid to be in your truth, you not being afraid to be learning how to connect all the pieces together and mixing in and blending does everything to come together. And that's why I was showing you the hieroglyphic monad, which is the one of the hermetic glyphs that, of course, Hermeticism, a lot of different people, especially like John Dee, who's an astrologer, and I think he did that book back in 1564, if I'm correct. But a lot, and I was just rereading a lot of that stuff, and so to see the moon, of course, and to then see this, which creates the sun, but the sun, the moon's connection, also the Aries part, which is the beginning of the chart, but really it's because the sun and the moon are exalted in Aries Taurus, so that's where the Venus element comes in that you see right here, and why you see this, right? So Aries, of course, is the exaltation of the sun, and the moon is actually exalted in Taurus. And that's why you see the Taurus energy, of course, with the bull. But understanding that it's a lot more than just the 4 elements, too. It's about being able to see all and how it all connects. And then to be able to see, right? Like to be able to see Saturn in the picture, right? And right? Like that's Saturn. And then to be able to see, you know, Jupiter as well in this whole thing, right? So it's like how, and it's kind of weird because it was like, I've been kind of getting all these really weird channeled aspects. So there's Jupiter right there. But you got to flip it around, turn it around in your head. And of course, that's what creates Mercury, which is the understanding of Hermeticism and all things. So it's like, I think using that understanding of astrology in a way where you could be able to see it in all forms and fashion, right? And in many ways, like we're kind of like in this weird little like hump. If I were to use this like black, we're in this kind of hump right now, which I go really deep into. See, that would be Aries, right? Like to complete that. But there is that understanding though that we are kind of like at this hump, like what we transform and bring into to rise the Phoenix out of is going to create and identify, and does it fit with all the things in life? It's like how the way our universe works. Is this a cohesive element of the things in which we are coming into our lives and choosing deeply? Because there is a big T-square to this full moon dealing with choice. So it's like, is this really the choices that I really want to make? Is this really what I want to connect with? And I feel that at the same token too, looking at this chart, because yes, the sun's on its way to Uranus. I mean, there's definitely us realizing that there is a beautiful world. There is beautiful things to go to. But of course, Uranus is in a fixed element and the most fixed sign, Earth sign of Taurus. And so it's like very, very difficult to learn to let go or to disconnect or to reinvent yourself in many ways in this moment, and to also kind of follow this deeper world that you really want, that you're setting the terms on. And it might be hard about this kind of deeper emotional feeling about others, but when Mars here is especially in Cancer, and this is why it's kind of harsh, is because Mars is in the moon's home, and so it's having a hard time, right? Like it's kind of intense, right? It's very like, you know, it can be positive though too, right? Like it to me is like somebody wants to take care of somebody in a good way, and it's the heroism and it's the strength and it's the courage and willing to like go, I'm going to take care of you, I got you, you know. Or it's like also at the same time kind of like a little harsh, like, hey, we got to go do this. I'm not emotionally feeling right. It's like, I don't care, you got to go, right? So it's like, you know, in many ways this is a minor trine that has finished with the full moon to Mars, but at the same token, because the moon is full and Mars is in that sign, so that dispositor, it's kind of crazy to see that this is going to be a very intense full moon, and that Pluto, at the same token, is going retrograde within the 24-hour period. So, and stationing at this point. We also, you know, just to kind of like, you know, finish this kind of horoscope off for you to really like try and take the most out of it that you can, would be that, you know, the nodes are hanging around the fixed stars of Aldebaran, of course, here, and down here with Antares. And so if we were to look at this nodal activity, you know, this is really becoming extreme when it comes to the energy of, you know, the dark, the light, the heaven, the hell, but also whether it's Archangel Michael. I mean, I think a lot of this is also, you know, I've covered it in some stuff, of course, in deep astrology. I've covered it in a lot of other, you know, aspects, but especially go way deeper into this, into my rising through the darkness purgatory, is like this being, of course, the ladder of contemplation right here. And so, yes, it's almost like, why do we keep contemplating our deeper wants, needs, and the things that are going to attain us a better life, when this is a very big time for us to regain our personal lives, our personal strengths? And also it's a protective element of that could come in. Are we overprotecting? Are we underprotecting? Are we not paying attention to what we really want and what we do want? And I think that these are going to be very, very important things that we're going to have to follow on this full moon. But just know what we're all going to be releasing is, you know, what no longer feels like it's serving our system in our life, what's no longer serving the things that we might have to feel this huge weight of responsibility about, that we really are not kind of having to do. So there's some kind of interesting elements to all that, which at the end of the day, you know, is like not the hardest thing in the world. But all right, so let's take a look, see what is going on with the card for the day. this out. I feel like the stream was kind of lagging there. It's kind of going all over the place. Oh, it's on variable. I'll change it to constant on the next one. All right. Let's see what's going on for the card for this full moon today. Five of Cups upright. And you know, this card is always, it always is kind of a card that deals up with a lot of sorrow. I mean, and you can look at it as a couple ways. I always look at it as, there's always in a traditional tarot, of course, 3 cups that are being knocked down. And the water's going down the river, and it's not that fun. It's like, oh gosh, like, got to go through this. But I think the understanding is those things are old, they're tired, they're boring, and we have 3 cups. We still have 2 cups left, so it's not like we're like losing everything. I think that maybe people might feel like their whole world is being lost, or some, you know, really intense negative thing is happening, when it's like, okay, like, let's look at it like maybe there's some things that aren't going to work out emotionally in our lives, but that means that they're also opening up the door for, you know, better or newer things to happen in our lives. And I think that that's kind of in a deeper, much more important place for us to look at the moment, instead of, you know, kind of getting kind of lost in a lot of these other things and getting kind of stuck in this kind of like feeling that we have to hold on to weight, which can kind of create this like, is the water stale in this cup? Am I truly like lost in a place where I can't be, or I can't experience, or I can't experience the truth of who I am in my life? So there's a lot of that that's going to come up. And I think that it's very important for people to not be afraid at this time to step up into their self, and to really become somebody who's able to connect all things at one time. That, a better way to put it, connect all things that make sense, that fit into all parts of our life in like the universe. And I think that we can attain anything that we truly want in our lives, although that sounds very like I can manifest anything at any moment, which I'm not one of those people. I believe in divine timing. But it's going to feel like divine timing is allowed to come into our life if we're open to it, and we have done the clearing out of what is no longer in our divine energy. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful full moon. I'm sending you all my best for this full moon, and I'll see you all on the next video. Take care. Make sure you join highvibe.tv, and of course get Purgatory. I'll talk to y'all later. It's just click it. It's on the top of highvibe.tv on the web and on your mobile web browser. Take care.